I'm not really sure how the bowing goes.
I don't either.
So
That's okay.
And we always bow to the 4 directions, so I just kind of defaulted to that after we did 3 bows.
Okay, great, thank you.
Probably it ends with the 3 bows. I don't know.
Yep, this is all new to me.
So if we can go over that, and maybe during break, that these two have been studying for some years can do a little thing on how to do the mandala offering and how to do the prostrations, just so you know, you've gotten that information. And what we do next is we do these prayers, and again, it's because it's so cool. I've been saying this every time, right? We're not supposed to actually teach unless there's a request. So I was checking out His Holiness the Dalai Lama's website the other day to see his schedule, and everything that's listed that he's teaching says by request of, the monks at Ganden, or the Taiwanese this and that, and it's that same thing that even His Holiness the Dalai Lama won't teach unless someone requests, and they make that so obvious, just like this is happening because someone requested it, which is cool, right? And it's also really sweet because what it means is it's not like my idea that this needs to go out to the world. Like just the way a baby makes a mother as much as a mother makes a baby, students really make what the teaching's possible as much, if not more, than the teacher. Right? So we do these in Tibetan, and just bumble your way through if you wish to join in. And again, we're offering a pure world, a world that is the symbol of what it is that we're doing here. Like this is our end point, right? And then we go like this, and then we take refuge. We take refuge in the Buddha, who is the historical person who taught us this way in the world. But also it's our own, I always like to remember, it's our own inner teacher that we're awakening, our own inner enlightenment. That's truly the real refuge. And the teachings and the realizations in our own heart along the way. And then our very sweet, precious community of spiritual friends that we have that support us, that we get to talk to about our path, that we travel together along this road. Puki Chukshe Meto Tram Rirablinshi Ninde Empari Sange Shindu Mite Uwagi Drokun Amdak Shinla Chubasho Iram Guru Radna Mandala Kanyatayami Chudan Soki Choknam La Jangchu Baru Dakni Kyapsuchi Daki Chinyan Kipe Tsunam Ki Drola Penchu Sangye Drupa Sho Chudan Soki Choknam La Jangchu Baru Dakni Kyapsuchi Daki Chinyan Kipe Tsunam Ki Drola Penchu Sangye Drupa Sho. Okay, so we're going to start with our meditation, and for meditation you can be on a cushion, you can be in a chair, just wherever you feel stable and at ease, relaxed, and yet aware, awake, vigilant. Okay? Vigilant is this term that is coming up because I've been studying with Alan Wallace, and he uses this term. He's a great meditation teacher. And I like that, to be awake and aware and alert, so we don't just space out. Right? So if you're in a chair, having both your feet on the floor, sitting straight up rather than leaning back, allowing your hands to be resting sweetly, just gently on your thighs. Feeling the elongation of your spine as if there's someone kind of gently pulling you up from the crown of your head. And then we withdraw our senses from their engagement with the outer world into the domain of the body. That means letting go of what we're hearing, what we're smelling, what we're seeing, and bringing our full awareness into the domain of the body. Anchoring it by bringing our attention to the felt sensation of where our feet or our legs, our seat, connects with the floor and the cushion. The felt physical tactile sensations become a whole realm, a palette for exploration with your bare attention. Allowing your mind to settle into its natural state by releasing any thoughts of past or future. Just bringing bare attention to the felt sensations in your body. And then for a moment or two, we will shift our attention to the felt sensations of breath in the body. Usually it's very available to feel the felt sensations of breath with the rise and fall of the abdomen. If a concern for the future or ruminating about the past arises in the form of thoughts, no worries, just release them. Rejoice that you're lucid again in the present moment. And relaxing, return to the felt sensations of breath in the body. And now bring to mind an image of yourself. See in your mind's eye. Picture of yourself lost in a dark forest. You don't know where you are. You don't know who can help you. You have no sense of direction or how to get out. And this time, rather than running here and there looking for a way out, you find a stump and you sit down on it. And you begin to bring to mind this single question of what do you seek? What is your heart's desire? What is it that you long for? Like, why is it that you came here tonight, and what is it that moves you from your core? If you're seeking relief from stress or busyness, from emotional turmoil, there are many, many places that you could go for this. There's so much these days being offered from all sides. But if your deepest desire is for a path to utter freedom from the cycle of suffering, that suffering that we shroud in our daily amnesia, a path to genuine happiness, an authentic path followed by all the Buddhas of the past, present, and future. If this is your longing, and notice this, recognize it. And begin to consider all your outer and inner causes and conditions that might be needed for that path to emerge. What you bring to this juncture, your own deepest longing. Being perhaps the most important. And if you feel, yes, I do want to follow such a path. You feel, yes, I can venture boldly, with confidence, fully onto the path. An irreversible path that transcends the world of space and time, to realize in this perfect awakening. And this yes, this great yes, begins to resonate in your heart, and you look up and a path appears through the trees, a thin, narrow path, like a band of light through the darkness. And you start walking until you emerge on the shore of a vast expanse of water. And across the water, you see a wonderful castle on an island. A beautiful, could be a crystal palace, could be like Disney's Magic Kingdom. And you know this is the place that houses all the steps on the path to awakening. And on the shore, standing in front of the castle, is a wonderful, holy, qualified, authentic teacher. One who is capable, who is deeply practiced, who has the motivation, the wisdom to guide you along the path. someone steeped in spiritual knowledge, wisdom, joy, compassion, and someone who is completely dedicated to teaching you, will never give up to guiding you along this path. And as you see them, you notice they're smiling. They've been waiting for you to come. They're so happy that you have finally found them. And they get in a boat to cross the water to come and get you. And as they get closer and closer, this is a time where you can contemplate the great gift of this first step, of who this teacher is for you. That this is the person who will guide you on the path, each step, who will help you to have realizations that transform your life, who will teach you about karma and emptiness, and from this flows a natural joy when they reach the shore and you make them an offering out of your gratitude that they've come. And then they take your hand and step onto the boat. Together, the boat begins to go across the water back to the castle. And when it's about halfway, you see this golden ring, this big golden ring, floating on the top of the water. And this is an image the Buddha himself used, that imagine there is this ring, and then on the bottom of the ocean lives a blind tortoise who rises to the surface only once a century, only once every 100 years. And on this vast ocean, what are the chances that this great turtle, this great tortoise, rises up and puts its head through the ring? And yet, this is exactly what happens as you're watching. And this is a metaphor for the leisure and fortune that we have in our life. It's a time to take stock and see, is my mind functioning and clear enough to understand teachings? Is my body healthy enough to be here? Do I have the resources to practice? And when I think of all the beings, human and non-human, in the world, this alone is so rare, really, statistically. And then the inner resources, the inner longing to actually use this health, this mind, to walk along the spiritual path. How amazing, how precious. And this would be a place to pause and really go through all the things that we often take for granted. The people in our lives, the good spiritual friends, all the circumstances that have brought us to this moment here in this room. And then the boat continues to the shore of the castle. And your spiritual mentor, your spiritual guide, your teacher, your Lama, takes your hand and helps you out of the boat, and you go up these vast, huge, giant stairs. And you stand in front of a yellow door. And I like to imagine one of those ancient castle doors where you're staring up. The door is vast, thick, and it creaks open when your teacher puts his hand, or her hand, onto the doorknob. And you walk in to the room. And the room is triangular. Here you are walking into one point. And you look off to the right and there's another point. Look off to the left, there's another point. And in front of you is a long, straight wall with a green door in it. And then you look and you see in the room and you step inside with your teacher there. They're always with you. And there is a glass coffin. And you step up and you look down and you see it's you in there. All these precious resources and opportunities and leisures we have, how long will they last? Is it true that they must come to an end? Is it true that I someday will die? Is that certain? Or am I the only one exempt? And if it's true that my life must end and that I will face this transition called death, when will it happen? We don't know. Some lives have been so short, some long. And then when I'm crossing over the portal of death, what will help? I'll be separated from everything I identify with, separated from family and friends. They can't come with me. Only my spiritual practice will help in that moment. And only the karmic seeds that I've planted will come with me. They'll follow as close as a shadow. And then you see on the left side of the coffin is a big pile of stinging beetles and snakes and scorpions. And you know that those represent all the negative things you've done, the negative karmic seeds, meaning those times where you've, out of ignorance, meaning out of not understanding how karma works, you've harmed someone else or yourself. And you see in the left side of the triangular room a big blazing fire, which is the fire of the four powers. And you scoop up those negative seeds, all the squirmy things, and you take them over and you throw them into the fire and burn them up forever. Refuge intelligent regret, restraining yourself from harming, practicing ahimsa. And a remedy, doing something to make up for what you've done in the past, usually an opposite act. And then you walk back to your coffin where you were standing. And on the right side are these gleaming jewels, radiant. And again with your teacher, you pick them up and you walk over to the right hand corner of this triangular room where there's a robe hanging over a throne. And these jewels are all the good things you've done, all the moments of kindness, of love, of compassion that you've given to others, to yourself. And you know that these will bring you future happiness, future ease, future contentment. That these are the positive karmic seeds you've planted. And so you walk to the robe, and then like the robe is a magnet to the jewels, they fly out of your arms, cover the robe. And your Lama, your teacher, puts it on you. And this is true refuge, the real refuge, what will keep you safe. And then you walk with your teacher and stand in front of the green door. And here you can take a breath. It's a good place to stretch for a moment if you need to readjust. And then seeing yourself in front of the green door. Your teacher opens it, you walk through. And you go down a long hallway. And the hallway has glass walls. And as you look to either side, it's like time-lapse photography. You see the things and the people that you love, that you're attached to, kind of growing old, passing away, coming to birth, growing old, passing away, cars getting made, driving, then resting in a junkyard, a meal prepared and then gone. And this is in the hallway of impermanence. An impermanence that because we don't recognize it in a deep way, because it's difficult to face, it brings us much suffering. And we feel, as we walk through, we begin to see that even the good things we'd hoped for in the last room, even if we do in this life or future lives have a good rebirth with money and wealth and things, that these won't last. That even the good things in our life must come to an end. And so we begin to develop this wish for liberation, not just to have good things and any kind of temporal happiness, but to actually get out of this cycle of suffering, of pain altogether. And then the hallway opens out into a big round room that's just like a geodesic dome, and on the inside, all covered with mirrors. In the middle, a beautiful, inviting meditation cushion where you can see that you'd feel safe and at ease and content, relaxed. Between you and the cushion are these pedestals, like art pedestals, and on top of them are very fragile things. They're close together. So you have to walk very carefully, weaving your way around these pillars to take your seat. And in your seat, you gaze at the mirror and see the reflection. And the reflections of the reflection. And then from here, you can gently release the images, release the meditation. Return to this body, this time, this room. If you're ready, you may want to wiggle your fingers and toes and open your eyes. Okay. So, how was that? long session.
Tired today, I guess.
What's that?
Tired today.
Are you? Yeah. Long day today. So, I always like to start the official part of class by turning around, saying hi to someone you haven't met yet, introducing yourself, and say hello. You can even go across the aisle.
Jeremy.
Hi, nice to meet you.
Lauren.
Allie.
Yeah, good to meet you.
Jay. Jay. Hi, nice to meet you.
Irma. Okay, yes.
I'm Lauren. Hi, Lauren. I'm Allie.
How have you been?
You too.
Oh.
Okay. So, are we getting the progression? Are you starting to get the flow here? The dark forest, which is that time before we actually ever meet a spiritual path, where we're feeling lost. And this time I put a little bit of a different flavor, a different spin on it, to show also that there isn't there are things that are important to incorporate, but there's not like one particularly right way to do it, and you can use it as an investigation instead of just reviewing these things. It's like, oh yeah, what is it when I'm in this dark forest? What is it that I'm feeling? What am I missing in my life? That's right, there's a sense of missing. And then you can carry that inquiry throughout the meditation and keep it alive that way. So any questions from last week, or from your homework, or from the week in between? Yeah.
I have a logistical mystical meditation question, I guess.
Yes?
The yellow door is the front door, or it's the one that you walk through? I remember us doing it as the one that you walk through out of the triangle room. And then there's a green one, and then there's another color one. Is that not right?
The way that I learned it was yellow door, then the green door, and then the blue door,
Yeah.
and then the red door. So when you're at the green door, when you come in, so you go. Do you want to? Do you want to do it? Yeah. Why don't you? You want to be our artist?
The artist is there.
Yeah. Do you want to be the artist today?
Right.
Okay.
Thank you, Jay. Thank you.
So, if you start with the forest down here, you can use their thing, and then the water. I think you're gonna have to go up this way. And you cross the water on the boat. And then there's the castle there, right? And it's not, I'm not a visual person. These kind of visualizations don't really come super easy to me. But this one I've worked with over the years, and I found that it's very, very helpful because the LamRim, the steps on the path, are so detailed, and now I can just go into, oh, that's right, I'm in this room. What does this room mean? Yeah. Cool. Yay. That's great. You have to move that so you can see. And the castle, so this is where you begin. In your very beginning is just your longing. And then you go through, you see your teacher on the shore, they come across. This is all part of the path. But this is where you start to actually enter what we call the scope, with the foundational scope of the practice of the LamRim. I think we're going to get a second whiteboard. Okay. I was going to or we can just do it on the side here, starting here. So within here, you have first the triangle room with the apex down like
The apex below.
below, right? So it's like that. Okay. And so as you enter this door, I would always have a visualization that it's a yellow door. And that as you enter right here.
You got no yellow.
No yellow. And then here is the coffin. Again. And on this side are all the pile of negative seeds, which are all scorpions and so on. Actually, it's to the left here. So you walk in with your teacher there,
Okay.
and you're standing there. You and your teacher are standing there. And then over here, right on that side of the room, it's in the room, but on that side, all the scorpions and everything.
On here.
And then on this side of the room are the jewels. And then on this side, here's the fire.
Here?
Right there in
Is
that corner.
fire.
And on this side is a throne with the robe hanging over it.
A throne.
That's, it's right here, actually. These things are all in the room. Okay? Now, as I said, when you do your own personal meditation and you go over this, you can, at home, you can linger at any one of these stages. You could say, do everything else super quickly. Like today, I actually lingered over the island a little bit, right? And next time I might linger over leisure and fortune. And then here is a green door. And that goes into a long hallway here. I'll leave a little bit of space like there. And then that long hallway opens into kind of a circular room. Okay, and then on this side is a blue door. And in the middle here is a cushion, and that cushion, the way I really like to see it is there's something magnetic and inviting about it. It's like it looks really safe, and like you just know you're going to feel great sitting on it, you know? Almost like a sacred space. Like someone I know talks about how when he was young, he grew up in England. He lives in England. He's Rob Priest, and he came out of a field, and when he was, because they just roamed the countryside as young people, and they just took a sandwich and a sleeping bag and went and did whatever they wanted, you know. And they came through the mist, and there was this big pond or lake, and in the middle of it was a pagoda. Right, an actual pagoda, just out of nowhere. And he said this just had this mystical draw and this feeling of wholeness and sacredness and magnetic quality, and it's kind of like that. Okay. So, and then around it, so this is all the things where you see impermanence in action. And you know that time-lapse photography? You know what I mean? Because when we're in the moment, again, like I'm going to say, there's nothing wrong with what we call mundane or normal pleasures, right? Having a good meal with our family, like an Easter meal could be here, or a Passover meal, or a spring, whatever way. That's no problem, no problem. The problem is when we think it's going to last and bring us genuine and ultimate and lasting happiness. And then it doesn't, right? So this is considered the scope of meditation, of practice with those on the foundational level. And their concern is what? Does anyone remember from last time? Like, what's the concern there when you're in this room?
This life.
Mainly like getting good things in this life, and
the next life?
yeah, that you're worried about rebirth, your own rebirth. You just want a good rebirth. Like, you know you're going to be reborn, you've accepted that part of the Buddhist thought, you believe in reincarnation, and you're like, I do not want to be a poor person in my next life. I don't want to be born in a war-torn country in my next life. You know, I'm scared. I got this, and that scares me, right? So I'm going to do this thing with the karmic seeds, right? So that I can load the karmic seed pile in my favor so that I'm reborn as another human being, but hopefully not just as a human being, but like a human being who's, I don't know,
A lot of money.
got a lot of money. I was thinking of Bill Gates or something like that, you know? Because how our human mind works is, when are we satisfied, right? Like I have a young 20-something daughter who's just starting out on her own, and all she wants is like enough money like if I just had enough money to cover my rent, right? And put food on the table, I'd be happy. And I know from having been there that once you get the money to just cover the rent and put the food on the table, what comes next? You know?
Go shopping.
Yeah.
Right, if I just had enough to like go shopping and get this, then I'd be happy. So the target's always moving. Okay. So this, once you enter the long hallway, it's considered you're on a different scope. You're on the scope shared, the part of the past shared with those of the medium scope, practitioners of the medium scope. And what that means is your concern has shifted from here to where, hey, I want to be Bill Gates in my next life, or J.K. Rowling, right? I think she's the richest, I mean, not only the most famous woman in the world probably, but I think she's the wealthiest woman in the world at this point. You know, I want to be her in my next lifetime. Then from here you start to see, that's not going to make me happy. That won't last, right? What I really want to do is figure out how to get out of suffering altogether. Okay? I really want to figure out how to escape this altogether. So, here, when you are generating a strong desire to escape all suffering altogether, what it brings us to is the Four Noble Truths. I'm thinking about which way I want to go. That's right. Let's turn this way. Has anyone heard of the Four Noble Truths?
I heard of them, but I forgot them.
Yeah.
Eraser.
Okay. All right. This is Amie's version of the Four Noble Truths. Life sucks. This is why. It doesn't have to. This is how. I mean, really, the Buddha didn't put it quite that way, but it's pretty close. So the first part is life, this normal human life is suffering. What does that mean? Let's talk about this. I mean, instead of me talking, like, what do you think of? Like, when I first heard this, how does it feel when you hear this?
Yeah. Well, it's like you get hungry every 4 hours and you get tired every 8 hours, and that in itself can be a lot of suffering, and that's just that's not even your mind, that's just your body.
Can we start writing? Let's do a suffering list. I mean, really, let's see. You know,
no amount of meditation is going to make you not get tired or hungry. Maybe less suffering associated with that, but...
Yeah, okay, so great. So the body, I was thinking about this today. The body is like hauling us around, right? Mm-hmm. We're a slave to it. 4 hours, I'm hungry.
4 hours is a long time.
Would you like to throw out a time here?
Yeah,
How much?
like when I'm done eating.
When you're done eating, you're hungry again, yeah. And then we get tired.
Mm-hmm. And then we have to go to the bathroom.
Yeah, we have to go to the bathroom. Yeah.
And that's just even when you're healthy, and then when you get sick.
Yeah.
You have to interact with germs.
I thought you were going to say something else.
Yeah. Yeah, like, right, when you get sick, when your knee goes out and all of a sudden you're hobbling around in pain, right? So there are times between, right, where we can kind of enjoy, but they're not going to last. And that's what this, you can put a big meal in here maybe. So. Then what they say, another thing is like, I was actually a midwife for many years. So I was at something like 2,500 births, stop counting around there. And what's the first thing a baby does when it comes into the world?
Trying to breathe.
Yes,
Yeah. It was actually, it's actually interesting. As we don't think of this, but as it comes out, everything gets squeezed out. So it comes out on an exhale. A baby, the first thing a baby does is actually take a deep breath in, and then usually vocalizes in some way. Not all the time, but most of the time. Comes out in some way crying, How many of you been at births or seen? Yeah, cool. Had a baby? No.
Had babies, been there while they're being born.
Yeah, so you've seen, yeah.
Uh-huh.
And then it's really interesting to watch because there's this whole process that goes on where you just see this little being going, I'm uncomfortable. You know, like this wasn't fun coming in. I was like happy in there and warm and comfy, you know. So that's another way that we say this life is difficult, suffering. Birth, the suffering of birth.
We're always getting things that we don't want and losing all the things that we do want.
Yeah, there you go. We're always getting what we don't want,
Not always.
but we're often.
A lot of times it
Yeah.
seems like.
Yeah.
We can't control it, and it seems random, yeah?
Well, I did that exercise. I only did it one day, but
Uh-huh.
the one day I was just focusing on sort of ill will because sometimes I think
Oh,
I
cool, yeah.
have just bad thoughts, and
Uh-huh.
and I have a lot of bad thoughts. I didn't realize how many bad thoughts I have.
Yeah.
Just just when you're really cognizant of it, it's like, gosh, I'm not very happy when I look at all these, jotting down all these things that I'm thinking.
Right.
Just even riding my bike, and I'm thinking all these, nothing's going my way, and things like that. It's just
So it's
craziness.
yeah, that's awesome that you did that, and it's
It
really
was just one day.
It's
It has to do too.
cool. It's like meditation, right? When you first sit down in meditation and you think, my mind's out of control. Meditation is making me go crazy. But it's not actually, is it the meditation that's making us go crazy? And we've just actually stopped and noticed what our minds are doing, and that's the first step to change.
I started noticing what I did automatically, like
Oh,
every
cool.
day, like
Uh-huh.
the channels I would watch on TV. And then I started asking myself, why am I watching this criminal show, about all these murderers,
Yeah.
I refuse. And then I noticed myself changing channels.
Cool. Yeah. Because that step, I think you guys are really getting at something that's super important here, which is why is the first truth that the Buddha taught, life is suffering? Because it is, but if it's a truth, why does he have to teach it? It's like, duh!
Because if things are going really well, you won't realize it.
If you're checked out, you don't realize you're unhappy until you're noticing, or you're having bad thoughts until you really notice. Because it's just the way you are. It's just normal.
Right.
And so
that first step is noticing, right? We don't notice. There's a certain way we're asleep at the wheel. We don't want to see. It's uncomfortable. Yeah. So why it's not just life is suffering, it's the truth that life is suffering. It's a turning towards. It's a noticing and seeing and saying, oh yeah, this is how it is. It's like this now.
Well, and then you notice and you suffer more because you notice
Well,
how bad you're. I mean, like before you get to the compassion for yourself part, but when you're first noticing, and then you feel horrible for all. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
You're like, oh my gosh, I'm this person that I don't want to be, or whatever, and that causes suffering, or did for me.
It's such a good question. I mean, it's something I think to look deeply at, because we do have this experience, that I'm suffering more because I've noticed. Like the noticing made my suffering bigger.
Or it made it exist.
Or it made it exist, right? Like I wasn't actually suffering, I was just fine, thank you.
Or it feels like distraction.
Yeah.
Because you tell yourself that none of this really exists, it's just an illusion. And then if I pay attention to it, then I feel like I'm getting sucked into the illusion, and so that I instead choose neutrality, so that I can just let it do its thing, and without getting sucked into it.
Yeah, which may actually be a way of zoning out and being defended against the truth of suffering.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I could just as well smoke pot.
Right. Yeah. No, it's true. Yeah. So, this is great. This is it. Yeah. So this is why the first truth that we have to wake up to, really wake up to start transforming ourselves. Yeah, and to look, we could say, even in the smallest way, all the way up to the biggest way, like sickness, how about death? How about old age? You know? That we're either in a disaster, in a moment of suffering, like this is a moment of suffering, or between them. You know, we could say that in big cycles or in little cycles. You know. So the traditional way, there are 8 different sufferings. We've gotten a lot of them here. But the simplest way to really think about suffering as we go through here, and to recognize that impermanence is a huge part of it. Not impermanence. Impermanence isn't the problem. Our grasping, our attachment and aversion, our wanting to grab on and hold on to what we want and not let it go. You know, like, I love to tell the story because it's so like one of these building blocks of my personality. My mom loved to tell the story of how when I was like 2.5 years old, or 3 years old, someone had a tricycle. And I didn't have a tricycle. We were playing in a little apartment complex because they were grad students. And she was there, and I went over to the person's tricycle, and I like glommed onto it like that. So she came over. Let go of the tricycle. I would not let go. So she had to pry each finger up like this off the tricycle handlebar. And then by the time she got to the other hand, this hand was already back on, you know. And that's often how I think. Like, this is my image for how we are with the stuff that we want, like, right? And then what about the stuff we don't want? Someone even who's just irritating. I mean, I just look at how many hoops I'll jump through to get away from an irritating person in my life, or a situation that even just makes me the least bit uncomfortable. I don't want to make that phone call, you know? I don't want to have to say that to that person. And I just went through this whole drama with my daughter going through this, where there was this whole drama about communication because somebody didn't want to say something that might hurt someone's feelings. Like, that was so scary and uncomfortable to them that they went like this. They did the opposite of this, right? And by doing that, they actually created this whole mess. But I was thinking, as I was talking to her, that's what we do in big and little ways all the time. It's like anything not to have to face that thing that I don't want to face, right? Or experience it. Okay, so the 3 types of suffering are what we call the suffering of suffering. We've got it all here. I'm just putting it down to Buddhist terms. The suffering of suffering is the backache, the headache, the hunger, the tiredness, the mental afflictions of... What's that? Pain, yeah. It's pain. Right? It's just, you know, and it's mental and physical, emotional, spiritual pain, right? So it can be, I hate myself. All right, here's another little thing. No, seriously, it's like Dove. Have you guys seen the new Dove commercial that's going around viral?
No.
It was made in France. It's so cool. What they did was they interviewed women. How do you feel about themselves? Like, what's your internal voice? My thighs are too big, you know, I'm too loud, nobody likes me, all this kind of stuff. And then they took all these sentences and they set up a situation in a cafe where 2 actresses, one of them memorized it and started saying it to these lines to another person, like, wow, you're just really too loud in company, you know? And your 2 front teeth are so small, they make you look like a mouse. And, you know, and it was just this astonishing thing because, like, this is our internal voice to ourselves, but they put it in this whole play of someone saying it to someone else. And anyway, it's like that. So that's mental pain, right? These are our mental afflictions. Then the suffering of change, right? That we just talked about. We lose things that we don't want. That we do want. Things come to us that we don't want, and everything's impermanent, right? We got the time lapse thing here. And then the third one's called all-pervasive suffering, which is basically that we're going to have to die. You know, and that on some level, if we look deeply enough, we have a dis-ease, a discomfort, an anxiety, an existential anxiety all the time because we have that peripheral awareness. So when we enter this room, this hallway, this is starting to motivate us, right? Remember, the death meditation is to motivate us to use our time wisely. It's not to scare us, it's to remind us. Like, I like to do that exercise. I actually like at the end of every day, or even in the middle of the day, to think, if I died right now, would I be happy with the way I'm spending my time? Is there anything I've left undone today that I feel bad about? Like, have I not said something to somebody today that I should have? Or, just that sort of thing. This is to start to get us to really, we've entered the room where we're sharing this concern now, how to completely get out of suffering, right? Because we're talking about the Four Noble Truths. This was just the first one. We've got 3 more to go. But let's take a quick break first, okay?
Okay. I notice I talk to myself, and a lot of times I say things that are not very nice. Like, you're so stupid, or how dumb.
Yeah.
What a silly person. And then I'd say, where did that come from? I heard somebody say that once, and I thought it was okay to say back to myself. So I'm like noticing that.
That's good. That's the first step.
Yeah. And that's part of what these practices are for, is not the just the physical, but these mental things that we find. Like, once you see how you're talking to yourself, once you see these negative thoughts, how do we work with them?
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, because I realize I do that same thing, but I didn't realize how much I do it. It's, when I write it down,
if you notice
I was just like, gosh, I am really discontent.
Or I'm not my best friend,
Here I am thinking I'm going around feeling pretty good, but then when I sort of recognize what I'm saying in my mind.
We're embodying something an impression that somebody else had of us, and not what we really are. And then we have to choose what we really are, and then be true to that, and be a friend of that.
Yeah, it takes work.
Well,
That's why we're here.
Yeah, we like to call it practice.
Yeah, it's practice.
It takes practice.
Yeah, that's right.
And then we take, and to do it in small doable chunks, like this is, that's part of what the book is about. Here's the habit. We call them highly activated constructs, like I was talking about, if you have a file like this,
I've never been that great at
and on top of your desk, you're going to reach for the one that's on top and easiest, because that's the one you use most. Same thing mentally, like, oh, I have this file called all these things I say to myself all day long. There it is, right?
Yeah, that's my job, but I'm the only person that does my job, so it's not like. I try to think like, oh, cool, I can do this. It's like it happened without me, even though it was like it happens without me, even if it's something I'm like, oh, crap.
Do you live in Sacramento proper?
I do. I live in Midtown.
Oh, cool. Nice place to live.
I like it. Yep, I'm pretty happy there.
Very helpful.
You lived there for a while?
I have been there for almost 2 years.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, when I first moved here, I was up in Roseville, which I did not want to be all the way up in Roseville.
Yeah.
But I could not find housing here. Yeah, Sacramento was very different from the Bay Area where I'm from, where I'd always got first pick of every place I'd ever lived in. Just never probably fill out a credit check and an application, you give them some money and it's done. Did not have that luck here.
Oh, interesting.
I feel like Bay Area is so much harder, but I've never lived up there.
It is now probably more so,
yeah.
but yeah, when I came here, everywhere I went required 3 months of full-time locally established work history, and I'm like, well, that is not applicable to me because I can't be commuting, 6 hours a day from Santa Cruz to here. Like, I need housing and then a job is how it's gonna have to work for me. And I offered to pay 6 months on a 1-year lease, and nobody would do that.
Wow. And it is
Wow.
Insane, totally insane.
I had no idea. That's
It was, so I had to rent a room. I was like, well, I absolutely hate
So you're an artist?
I'm really glad to be here. In a great place, and safe, working, and my neighbors are great.
No.
it's a big change from the Bay Area or Santa Cruz stuff to here.
I welcomed it. I really liked it here.
Yeah, are you?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't want to leave the Bay Area, but
And that it just like.
I knew if I stayed, it was going to continue to be really difficult. It's exorbitantly expensive. Jobs are few and far between, and the competition is huge. So I'm like, okay, well, I can't change the situation here, but I can change me not being here.
Right.
So I came here because it there's jobs, and it's like the money goes farther.
Totally.
And I like it. I like the warm weather.
That's great. Well, then you're definitely in the right place.
Yeah, it worked out really well for me. It was definitely an adjustment when I first, but
It's hard to move into a new city where you like don't know anybody.
I had to do it so many times.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so now that I'm here, I'm like, this is it. I'm never moving again. Ever, ever.
Grasping.
I've had to start over.
Things will not change.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I've had people pulling me in other directions, like, well, move with me to this city. And, oh. And I'm like, nope,
Yeah.
I'm here.
No.
I'm not going anywhere. I want roots.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely want to.
Yeah, I was thinking about this now, so that's.
Let's go ahead and just pass those around.
Thank you. That was quite a bell.
Left-handed behind me. Okay. This will be.
I don't know. What are those? Is there extras?
Yeah, these are
That's a
for.
flyer for.
And I'm-
Oh.
This is, oh.
Yeah,
Okay.
Oh, this is the one you talked about last.
that's the one I talked about last time. So
How pretty.
I think one of those.
Elaine Jackson will be coming and doing this one day. It will be very open, gentle. I think it will be fun to bring people who haven't meditated before or barely meditated. And she'll be interspersing a Dharma talk and gentle movement and walking and sitting meditation. And it will be right here in this room on May 31st, right?
Mm-hmm.
Sunday.
Nice.
That'll be cool. We should put one of those up here, and I'll print out some more for Sunday night at SBMG. So.
Is this center is in Santa Cruz?
Her center is in Santa Cruz, yeah. It's called Vajrapani Institute, and it's actually a residential center. So people live there, and then people come for week-long or weekend retreats and teachings. And it was one of the first in the United States. It was in 1971. It was built originally. So it's very long-term, very established. I'm trying to remember. I think His Holiness the Dalai Lama has been there once, but just a lot of different great Buddhist teachers and people that are interested in Eastern and Western psychology. And then the other thing, you guys probably didn't get an email yet because I sent it just before I left, but I have another exciting thing happening, which is about 2 years ago, going on 3 years ago, His Holiness the Dalai Lama asked for a Tibet house to be here in Sacramento. And so Ravi Vimer, who's just an amazing, wonderful person, started it, and it's just been going very, very slowly. And so now we're going to really start a concerted effort to find a location. So if any of you have any insights for a location, Midtown would be awesome. So if you see any commercial places, let me know.
You think we're gonna go with them?
And we And so we, Diamond Light Tibetan Meditation Group, or Tibetan Buddhist group, is going to be doing one of the full-on programs there. So Tibet House, so I'm now on the board of Tibet House, looking for a location, and it will house us, and then, so we'll move when that happens. And then there's just a great plan to have other teachers come and speakers on Western psychology and Buddhist psychology and traditional Buddhist teachings and meditation. We'll have a meditation program and hopefully a Tibetan yoga program and things like that. So.
Where do we send the information if we find one? Because I live in Midtown and I
Oh, you
see
do? Cool.
all kinds of things.
CNM Diller, DILLER, @gmail.com.
Got it. Thank you.
Thanks. Okay, so second noble truth we actually ventured into, which is called I said life sucks, this is why, right? So the cause of suffering. And basically the cause of suffering, like we mentioned, is misunderstanding how our world works. The way we talk about it is ignorance is the root cause of suffering. Okay? And ignorance doesn't mean like book learning, it just means we have a mistaken view of how things work in the world. And because of that, we go about getting, and we all want happiness. You know, we all want ease, contentment, happiness, connection, positivity, and we want genuine happiness. Right? That doesn't rely on outside circumstances, which can be changing. Yeah? So the problem is we suffer because we go around getting that the wrong way. And if we look deeply, we could say most of the pain and the war and everything in the world is really caused by people that are trying to get something that they think will make them happy. Right? And the ignorant part of it is because they don't know how the world really works, and because we don't know, we're willing to harm and hurt other people and other non-human people, beings, right? And the earth itself to get what we want in terms of what we'd say mundane happiness, temporal happiness. It doesn't ever last. But we try.
It's on.
Thank you. I just realized I didn't have Mark's backup. So because of that, you know, we say that's the cause of our suffering, that misunderstanding, that ignorance. The third noble truth, by the way, noble is not the best. Second noble truth is that there is a cause for the suffering. And then the third noble truth is that there's a way out. There is an end to suffering. There is an end. And by the way, noble truth is not actually the best translation, but we use it because everybody knows it. Like if we start using our own translation of the Arya truth, which is really technically what it is, it has a technical explanation of, just wanted to tag that for future. So you're not shocked when we talk about it someday.
It's not so noble.
Well, Arya means, I won't go into it or we'll take a whole detour. Okay.
Right.
All right, so what do you think of that?
Awesome.
End of suffering.
Sounds good.
Sounds good? Just want to point out, the Buddha did not teach, I will show you how to adjust to your suffering world.
No.
He didn't.
It's not like an option B or
Nope.
fallback.
No fallback plan. And now, like, if you meditate enough, you'll be okay to get through the suffering. Right? He said he really, truly taught there is an end to suffering. That's pretty radical. Mm-hmm. It's really radical, right? Kind of gives me shivers sometimes. Oh. Okay. So then, the fourth is Arya truth, or noble truth, is what?
There is an end.
Here's how. Yeah. Like, isn't that the next thing? If someone says, hey, guess what? There's an end to suffering. What's your next question?
How do we do that?
How do we do that? Exactly. Like, tell me about that, How do I get there, right? And so that was what he did, right? There is a path to end of suffering. Now, this path is described in different ways, right? And if you go to different Buddhist traditions, it will be described in different ways. It's all like taking an apple pie and describing it in different ways. Same pie, but, I'm going to describe it top to bottom. I'm going to describe it inside out. I'm going to describe it in wedges that go on plates and then we enjoy in a temporal fashion, with ice cream, please. And so don't worry about it, if you see other things. The way that, and I'm going to just go through it quickly because we are running out of time. The way we talk about it is the 3 higher trainings. The 3 higher trainings are ethics, which we talked about last time, meditative concentration, and wisdom, right? And that is how you can get to what we would call nirvana here. Not full enlightenment, but nirvana means, Nirvana's a band, we got that. I think nirvana is also, is it a perfume or is that samsara?
Probably a perfume too.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I think there is actually a perfume called samsara. I have to look that up again.
Which is ironic. It should be nirvana.
It should be nirvana, yeah. No. But nirvana is kind of like entered into our vocabulary. Like, what do you think of when you think of nirvana?
Heaven,
Heaven? Like a place?
like perfection, like
Mm-hmm.
where the peak.
The peak.
Being blissed out.
Being blissed out. Cool. Any other associations besides the band? We already scratched that one out. So is nirvana the same as enlightenment and awakening?
No,
No. Why not?
it's not moving.
What do you mean? No, I'm just curious. Like when you say it's not moving, like,
I was almost talking to myself.
uh-huh.
Because
Out loud so we can hear.
Nirvana would be like you have arrived and all you have to do is just be. And then you were asking me what is the difference between
Yeah, like if we think about it,
nirvana and what, heaven?
and enlightenment.
And
I'm just curious, like,
enlightenment
do we
is,
think of nirvana and enlightenment as the same or different?
enlightenment to me seems to be more active. It's like you're aware
Mm-hmm.
and you're moving, you're aware that you're moving.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas the other being blissed out or just being in heaven, you just kind of just throw yourself down on the marshmallow and
I like that.
If I remember right, it's your intention that will make the difference. Like if you're intending to get out of suffering for all beings, you're on the way to enlightenment.
Right, so what's the scope here? Like, what's the big concern here in this room, in this phase, in the green phase here? Not the blue, well, kind of, they both, what's that? To get yourself out of suffering, to not ever have to experience suffering again, right? And what we call that is like the end of our mental afflictions. Nirvana literally means to blow out, like you blow out a candle. And as a matter of fact, the early Buddhist scholars thought that Buddhism was nihilistic because they thought when you blew out, it was like you just popped out of existence. That was it. No more existing ever. Yeah. The idea is that you yourself have put an end to experiencing suffering. And there's a lot of dialogue between, is there a difference between suffering and pain? Does that mean you don't feel pain? Or that you don't suffer when you feel the pain? There's lots of questions there. But the technical definition is that you are completely free of any mental afflictions. any negative emotions, any negative experiences in that way. So it's not enlightenment yet. It's missing some things to be enlightenment, but it's pretty darn good. I wouldn't complain about having that. So how do you, and we say it's, by the way, it's the permanent cessation. The permanent cessation. Because we can have temporary cessations of our mental afflictions. We can feel happy, but for a few moments. But this is permanent cessation. So here, what we have for the 3 higher trainings is here we have the pedestals with the little art things on them. And that represents, like last time we talked about the 10 things to watch, right? Protecting life, right? Protecting other people. Do you remember that? I handed that out at the end real quickly. Mm-hmm. Because those are the ways we plant karmic seeds. And karmic seeds are positive or negative. What makes a karmic seed positive?
It's good to us if we like it. Our intention.
It causes a result of it.
It creates, when it ripens, it creates a positive experience. But for whom?
For us.
For us, right? It was like that brick that we threw up. If it's a positive karmic experience, karmic seed, when we throw the brick up in the air and it comes down a few blocks down, and we don't remember we threw it up in the air because of the time gap. If it comes down as a gentle rain of fragrant blossoms, or maybe maybe somebody up there decided to shower with $100 bills, then that would be a positive result. That means that the seed we planted is positive because it's going to ripen as something positive for us in the future. So negative karma seed was going to be what?
Something that's
Something that causes you pain and suffering.
Something that, right, exactly. Okay, so if we have, as we come through here, we have to be very careful as we walk around here, and that means very careful extremely careful to keep avoiding planting negative karmic seeds. Okay. So here, as we went through this door, we actually would think, as I continue on, before here, I'm going to not create any more scorpions, and I'm going to plant a lot more jewels, right? And here, it's just, I'm going to be, you can put them, that was right, like all around here. They're everywhere. There are these, so you have to kind of very carefully maneuver through. And that's being really, how careful we have to be to keep our ethical living, which is ahimsa. Have you all heard of ahimsa? Not harming?
and non-violence.
Yeah. So that's really what it is. It's all the ways of not harming ourselves or others, behaving in the world in a way with an intention. Part of why it's important, it's a foundation for good meditation. Because what if you just had a big fight with someone and you sit down to meditate? Where's your mind going?
To what you're going to say next to the friend.
Right. And what else? Like what I'm going to say next, and
How they were so wrong.
how they were so wrong,
Judgment, yeah.
their judgment. I don't know about you, I replay the conversation 20 million times in my head, like they said this, and I should have said that, and I could have done this, and what did they,
Well, what if I do this?
Right. And what did they really mean there? Yeah. So, if we really if we go through our daily life, practicing ahimsa, practicing care, keeping the book, like you did so beautifully one day. Then when we sit down, our mind will be more at peace. Over time. It's not going to happen unfortunately, same day that we put it into practice. But then our minds will be more settled and we'll get what we call meditational stability. meaning we can settle our mind on our breath or any meditation object and stay there for a long time. Yeah? And then once we have that stability, then we can turn our gaze to the question of reality. How does the world really work? How does the world really work? What am I doing here? Who am I? Okay. Do I exist only in this time and space and being? You know, what's the meaning of my life? Deep questions that we can look at most clearly from this meditative stability. And that, once we look, is called wisdom, vipassana, seeing into inquiring into the nature of reality. And that's what will help us achieve nirvana. Okay? So that's when you meditate on this room. Is this getting long enough that you need a script? Should I bring a script next time? Are you doing it? Maybe, yeah. Just like a highlighted blue room. I mean, we haven't gone to the blue room. Yellow room, triangle. This is what we're doing. Green room. This is what we're doing. Yeah,
If that's
might be
the
helpful.
language we're going to use, then I would like a script.
Pardon?
Yes, if that's the language we're going to use, because I don't really know
Yeah. Okay.
the words to use yet.
Yeah, and the most important thing is that you make this your own, you investigate it, and you look into it, right? That's in the meditation what resonates with you. That's what's going to change you, your life. And when we first look into wisdom, what we see is those things we thought were permanent are not permanent, right? And those things we thought were out there existing without any input from us actually don't exist that way. You know, there's no independent self to things like that. So really cool. So you see, this is how you're getting the overview of the whole Buddhist path, one path to enlightenment. So I forgot to put homework 4 on the top of this, but again, this is an invitation. It's a lot. I really mean for this to be something that if you want to just work on it for the whole week, you can, but it's something you can put away and continue to come back to with each time that you go through the
Nice.
session, okay? And I think we can, if you miss the other homeworks, or any of them, just come see me afterwards if you're interested, and I'll catch you up. So thank you. How's that?
Fabulous.
Load you up for the week?
Mhm.
For a lifetime or 2? All right. Well,
Years.
have a wonderful week. Keep investigating. Keep practicing. Pick one thing up. Just, this is, again, like I said, I'm loading you up with a lot, but just pick one thing for a day to work with and see how it is. So we'll say our closing prayers, which is now, we created a lot of good energy in this room, a lot of goodness. So we're going to, again, offer the mandala, offer this perfect world, and then we're going to give away the goodness. So you can even think of someone you know in your world who's having a hard time right now, and just imagine them getting this and their own burden being lightened.
Sashi
Pupi Chukshin Mitak Tram Rirab Linshin Ende Yampadi Sange Shindu Mite Uwagi Drokan Namdak Shinla Chupasho Iram Guru Sunam Yashele Jongwe Nampa Kuni Dopa Sho. Thank you. This is,
Thank you so much.
oh, my pleasure.
I missed homework from last time.
Okay.
I didn't come. Maybe you
That's
could fill me in.